Tuesday morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Business Day. I'm so glad to be back on your screen. I think it's been a while. I've been up and about, but I'm so glad to be here today. And for us to just get into the conversations, of course, that are taking place in the business world and just some of the stories making headlines in the business world. And last week was Financial Literacy Week. And I think you saw a lineup of people from different banks just to have conversations around Financial Literacy Week. But one of the conversations that we cannot run away from is that of the pronouncement by government and cabinet actually approving Zambia's 24 hours economy. And that is going to be our topic of discussion this morning. I think when the chief government spokesperson was making that announcement, I think I was present in that particular meeting. We were having a meeting with IBA in Choma. That is where that pronouncement was made by the Minister of Information and Media, Honorable Cornelius Muitwa. This morning, Mr. Kelvin Sanga joins me to discuss whether this announcement by government to have Zambia running 24 hours just to increase productivity, is this workable, or is because there's been a lot of different sentiments coming in from different stakeholders and others feeling that this has been rushed and there was need for a lot of consultations regarding this announcement by government. But this is why Mr. Kelvin Sanga is here this morning to join us on our Facebook page. We are Millennium TV Zambia. And on your top set decoders, it is Channel 95. My name is Lovisa Chilifia and I'm your host. Mr. Sanga, good morning. Welcome to the Business Day. I'm so happy to see you.
Thank you so much, Lovisa. It's always good to be here. I'm back home. Yeah, just like the way you got...
Yeah, back home. Where were you?
Of course, I was gallivanting everywhere. Yeah. But of course, this has been, a very strong trademark to be in this place. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. Mr. Sanga, our conversation today is around the government's pronouncement to approve a 24 hours economy in Zambia. I think there's been conversations around it, and probably this comes at a time that most of us were not even expecting that cabinet would approve, Zambia to be running 24 hours. I think a day before that particular announcement, or that morning of the same announcement, we were having a conversation around it, I think, with Ms. Chewe, and she was telling me to say, Zambia. So if we had the 24 hours economy, I don't even think people would be working. And later, I think a few hours later, the Honorable Cornelius Muitwa announced that. But from an economist's point of view, Mr. Sanga, how do you react to this approval or announcement by government?
Well, the thoughts around 24-hour operating model of economic structure is something that is quite an important aspect that we need to underscore. With the aspiration to double the size of production in the country, and also to look at the sound DGP profile, we need to activate our efforts, with a lot more production, learning time, and also ensuring that we have a better model around business operation. And this calls to be a good model that can actually be able to help gravitate toward good numbers. And again, if you are to look at it in a better way, I would say Zambia needs to have a continuous or a process that actually be able to, be sustainable for us to actually increase our output. What we have in place right now is that we run on low production, and we've got high unemployment rate. So for us to get more numbers, and even just to see if we can basically start going to value addition in most of the essential production that we should be able to see, it requires that we need to actually trigger a policy effort modulating to the cause of 24-hour operating cycle. There are sectors that are basically doing 24-hour operation, but they are not matching to the desire that we should be able to see in terms of trying to push the scales on the DGP. So this actually is something that is a welcome idea. Looking at how Zambia should be able now to pattern, economic performance and output. So maybe the biggest factor that I can actually be able to say here is that Zambia has been growing a population growth of about 3.2, which is actually not matching with the output production of the economic growth, meaning we are still standing at disparities. What we see basically working out here is that we are not standing comparable to the growth that is demanding in other things, like, for example, food, cost of living, and many others. So for us to actually do the better way of economic model, we need to double the size of production. If anything, we need to go even as high as 10% of economic growth on GDP profile. That demands now our full capacity use of resources. You see, the concept here is that during the night, we do not use these buildings. We do not use a lot of other infrastructure and assets. So if we tend to go the 24-hour model, it means we have a maximum exposure and use of such infrastructure, maximum use of resources such as human capital. So that in itself would drive something that would be substantially important from that perspective, meaning we can now double the size of the growth that we have actually been able to record even in the past. Zambia's growth now has been averaging about 4.55%. So for us to basically get to 10% or even just 8% in essence, we need to utilize the fullest capacity of resources that we are actually be able to see lying idle. And you see, human capital is something that we have seen on increment or increasing each and every time. So we need to see how best we can fit the puzzle into what is happening in regards to the specialty demands from there. So maybe by and large what I should be able to say, not to bore you so much, is to say that the thinking of government, especially central government authorities, is something that is in line with what we need to do. This is a comparable case with Tanzania, Ghana, and many others. Countries that are getting to these thoughts, it's something that will be able to help, change the narrative in terms of economic structure. If you look at countries that have actually been able to underscore huge quantum of activities in terms of economic profile, they are basically using with this model. This model, we cannot wash away the effect that can also come from there as bad effect. Issues to do with the social disorder, issues to do with security issues, and many others. But it also requires that we need to do a specific design to ensure that we underscore what is required to be done. And if this also, it also calls for a lot more benefit for you and myself and many other Zambians out there, which also will be able to help broaden a lot of perspective in terms of trying to look at SME growth, looking at a governance policy, looking at revenue capacity. So a number of good things can be able to quantify from there, meaning what you're trying to put on the table is something that has got goods aspects, but also we should also be able to see that there are some challenges that we can also be able to encounter, but it also goes with how we're going to counterbalance these aspects. Yes. Right.
You speak about how Zambia's population is growing at 3.2%, Mr. Sanga, and it's not in tandem with our productivity levels. Why is it crucial that at this particular juncture, Zambia, with the pronouncement, of course, to have a 24-hour economy, why is this crucial to our population? And also the argument that we do not have a lot of industries. How does this also work?
Okay, so the crucial point here is that when we have got a population growth which is standing contrast to the projection of economic growth, or even just the actual or nominal growth that we normally record, that in itself brings about a lot of things. For example, we can talk of the cost of living, which will be a more channel that will be able to be seen from there. So what we see basically working out here is that when you have a population growth which is almost even growing upward, it's basically just becomes difficult when you are not certain of the economic growth, because the key issue is that when you look at the whole scenario, aggregate demand won't be able to be met. And what we are going to build in the certain supply deficit of such nature, we'll be able now to see that the market, or even just the whole population stance, will have some social disorder, meaning we can now breed prostitution, we can build thieves, we can, a lot of things that happens with that situation where the economy is not matching up with the population and the economic growth, meaning we will stand at a very serious disparity. Even when you look at the issue of poverty income situation, hunger situation as well, that will be able to have a very important aspect that we should be able to see, that we will not be able to even attend the developmental goals that the UN prescribe to Zambia, or even just as we are talking about issues of governance, it becomes relatively difficult to meet up certain parameters. Government also, in essence, has to look at uplifting a number of people. Even that's the reason why we even actually able to see that there are issues of social cash transfer and other social empowerment, is to make sure that people have actually been put into average position as compared to just letting them go down there. The key issue that no matter how much you push for the economic tablas to perform positively, if the poverty situation is quite huge, it becomes difficult situation. It's like in your own family, when you've got people that are almost like begging on the streets and you are working there, even if you happen to do whatever you can do, you will find it very difficult for you to even sustain yourself, because you will always want to also extend. Whatever you're having might even be going without having something surplus to save. So that's the same situation with the country. As a government, they also want to look at a way in which they want to sustain the poverty situation. Even if it happens to be at an extreme level, they want to reduce it at a certain level which is scalable, which is manageable. So that is what's supposed to happen from that perspective, meaning for us to see the economic structure perform in a way it's supposed to be health and sound, we need to look at what are the policies that should be able to speak, which should be able to give more productive sense of undertaking, meaning the 24-hour operation will enable you, Alovisa, to actually work for millennium in the day. In the night, you will be able to do one or two things that are up to midnight, and maybe come back home with some disposable income. So that is the whole concept, to say, let's see and advance this idea so that we can see how best it can broaden the tax basket for Zambia. It can broaden the aspect of disposable income at household level. It can also help to change narrative, because you see, with this implementation or this act of policy, if it comes into law, it will be able to help give you mandate to operate even when the daylight economics is not working out. So it's important that it's just basically just going to change a number of key factors from there. It's quite fundamental important to see that Zambia is thinking in a modern way. Learning a continuous productivity, it's something that is required to sustain a number of key fundamental requirements, especially when it comes to budget, it comes to many other aspects. Zambia is learning deficit because we're not doing much on the revenue, tax to revenue. Maybe I can also speak to the issue of expenditure columns. If you look at the budget, we are not meeting up some of the required expenditure columns because we do not have enough money generated through taxes. So that also speaks from there. So what we want to do is to match up with the developmental aspect. Even when you look at the policy guideline of education right now, we are talking of free education. When you build free education to this level, what you're trying to do at a particular point is that we are trying to develop an health and productive society. If these people that have gone into school, about 2.5 million, if they finish school today, where are they going to be? Already we've got a situation where there is an unemployment situation today. So we are trying to just create that baseline, a platform where these people who have an absorption of some sort, they will come to start interplaying into the economy, which is already aligned to 24-hour operation system. The 24-hour operation system requires even more additional workers. Even students now can even go to school during the day. In the night, they can do some part jobs here and there. So that is a whole perspective. It has a risk component, which no one can disagree about it, but it is also a golden opportunity that need to be worked on, and we can see a lot of potential factors that can emerge through this aspect.
Right. We'll get to the risk component firstly, Mr. Tsanga. But what I want to ask is, the argument that, this announcement to have Zambia's economy running 24 hours comes at a time when Zambia's economy is also not doing well. And the question has been, how do you start operating 24 hours when the economy itself is not performing well?
Okay, I think the current platform or the economic structure is far way better than where we're coming from. Except at the point when we have attained the macroeconomic stability in most of the key variables. Especially when you look at issues to do with the capital stock, we have not done any sharp changes in the interest rate for some time, and we seem to be standing on a predictable condition. So that in itself has already spoken on how certain things should be able to be shaping up from there. So what I should be able to say that at a point when we have finished or almost finished the negotiation regarding the debt profile, it's important for us to see how we can basically work out things from there. Then at a point also when we have a strong fortitude and sentiment of investors' confidence, it's a right time that we should be able to speak and think in those lines. So what I'm trying to say that, yes, we cannot be in perfect order as it may be able to stand. By the way, maybe just to flash you back a bit, the aspect and the deliberation of 24-hour economy, it did not start with the European, it started with the PF. Though it could not advance to the level where it has been advanced, obviously it's a progressive model which is moderating to the case right now. And even when you look at the point where we are, it's not yet law as per se, but it will be passed into law once it goes through the parliament. So what we are speaking right now is that this element of stability, the balance of stability that we have seen so far in macroeconomic environment is now what is giving us more substance for us to start thinking of saying, can we now start thinking of going into this? Obviously, for you to go into 24-hour operating environment, it does not need you to have huge capital. Already we're just turning things that we normally use in the daytime economics into now the night shift, where you are basically have got a building, just like the building here. You'll not be able to have another building for it to operate in the night. You not have another employee. Maybe you have some bit of models that need to be put in place where you need to have maybe, say, instead of having 10 more people that can complement to your business, you had maybe 5, you make it 15, meaning the 10 that have actually been working out in the day can also now have shifts here and there, meaning you can also have the additional 5 to work in the night. So the model of change that will happen is maybe an addition of 2 or 3 people that can actually cover up in the night. And that is what's going to happen, meaning it will also increase number of laborers that will be able to add into the existing staff complementary, and that gives a shape even to the people that are out there who do not have work or who are still languishing after graduation. So this basically gives an opportunity for more massive employment, which will take place across the band, meaning each and every sector that will be able to respond to this will be able to have an increment. And that also brings about an aspect of an increase in the growth in terms of company profit and many others. Then when you look at the trade mechanics or system, we are talking of broadening the tax basket, meaning payee who go up, pay as you earn, that is payee. Then we are talking of corporate tax also will be able to increase from there. So a number of good things. So it's not something that has a repercussion in a negative, but has got a repercussion in a positive way. And the implication here is that Zambia is heading in a good direction. And what we see, even when you look at across the region, Zambia has been marked as a fourth, investor friendly in the mining sector, meaning we can now push the scale even to number one. We can push the scale even when it comes to other key factors that should be able to be seen from there, which can complement to investor attraction and also in terms of just production side of things. So by and large, I've spoken so much, but the bottom line here is that we are going to see things working out in a perfect order, even when we seem not to have prepared here. But the moment you put a policy guideline and instrument working out from there, we will have investors who will be able to flock into the country and start interplaying there. It might not be able to take everyone to have in agreement, to have that agreement interest. What we are going to see is that maybe we might see 1, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, the number will start increasing. Before you know it, everyone will join. So it does not take the masses to respond. It takes maybe one person who will feel that it's an opportunity that has been presented in their own way, and it comes out to work for them in perfect way.
Mm-hmm. Right. You spoke about risk component in this 24-hour economy, and one of the issues that has also been raised is security concerns, and power outages as well is one of the concerns, even as Zambia moves towards the 24-hour economy. How does this work? Especially that I think for a very long time, even from the Zambia Police Service, we've heard that they don't have enough manpower, and this is a crucial moment, Mr. Tsanga, that people need to be secure even as they do their day-to-day businesses.
Lobisa, I like conversation of this nature because it gives a number of things, start uncovering up. And maybe before I could even just answer that, it's a typical question where somebody says, Lobisa, you are the wife today. When you are the wife today, definitely to start creating rooms for so many things, maybe a level of tolerances that now coming in. He's my husband, I don't need to fight him. That kind of thing. So what I'm trying to say in the case is that when you are given an opportunity, a golden opportunity of that nature, with this aspiration, it basically calls for more increased production, more increased human resource. Even when it comes to government point of view, when they are saying they are trying to go with 24-hour operating economy, it means they will be able to employ more police officers to cover up. There will also be aspect of security companies now being rampant, meaning it's an opportunity for security officers or security people to venture into intelligence security. Integrity security aspect will be able to come in as a key complementer to the business. Meaning we can now increase and expand more security services. Even you, Murovisa, you can say, I'm going to form a security company. You will have business because that is an opportunity which is presenting, which is standing there. So it's the same with what I should be able to put across in terms of electricity and energy in totality. The aspect of power generating capacity should be able to start now growing or going upward so that we can create more room for expansion. Even when it comes to the investors' point of view, I'm sure the government will put policy instrument or framework which will be now gravitating a lot of capital injection into energy sources so that the energy sector can now start expanding at will, because this is demanding with that appetite for us to see how we can create opportunities out there. Meaning, even when it comes to energy aspect, obviously, for you, even just as we speak right now, the ERB, for you to have a license, it used to take about 3 months or so, but it takes now 48 hours. So that tells you to say the energy sector has already given shape to the growth that is demanding. Even when it comes to security officer, maybe even just issues of security companies, I think it would be more important even to speak from there to say these challenges can be turned into opportunities. And these are opportunities that are standing there, potentially standing for us to actually just take and hold. It's important that we should also seek an opportunity of this nature so that we see how best we can work out things. We should not just see things from a challenging point of view. We should see things from opportunity, of course, seeing things from untapped business. So when you have a security concern with a 24-hour economy, I think you have it to say it's an opportunity for business. And that is the mindset which we need to create. You know, with that mind, I think we'll be able to move forward. Yes.
All right. Mr. Sanga, even as we near the end of our discussion, the main question now is this workable? And firstly, even before we get to is this workable, the concerns around consultations regarding Zambia's 24-hour economy, do you think the decision by government was rushed? And do you think that there was enough consultation?
Okay, so maybe the point I should be able to put across is that we might be facing challenges to do with the overlapping of regulations. Because if the Minister of Local Government want you to close at this particular time, want you to have this, then the Minister of Finance want you to operate 24 hours because they want to have more tax revenue and all that. So maybe from the standpoint is that government has set a tone, meaning they have to do also their in-house preparation in terms of trying to harmonize the whole policy framework to ensure that there is no overlapping of some sort, not even a conflict of interest from that point. So from the private sector point of view, I think the private sector is always ready. It's just a matter of trying to create, better safeguards, especially when it comes to security, defense issues, issues to do with the light regression and all that. So I think it's just government which is supposed to be ready now because the private sector is able to respond. Right now, as we speak, there are sectors that are actually doing overnight, transactions in terms of business. I'm sure even you as Millennium TV, you learn throughout the whole time. You have got the system that works out. I can switch on the TV at 01. I'll still watch one or two things from there. So even when you look at the medical care, hospitals, clinics, few other medical health sectors, they do operate during the night. So that already has set a tone. Some sectors are not basically working out, like we have talked of the transport ban, where the passenger transport is not able to transport people during the night because of accidents. So that also is something that I should be able to say that I think there is a need for government to reconsider that, because you see, the bottom line here is that transport may be required to transport people from one point to another, and even just when you look at the business turnover, I may go to Nakonde in the night. I arrive there around 6 or maybe 04. By 12 hours, I'm supposed to start coming back. By 02, I'm in Lusaka. I sell my goods. I have something just like that. So it also depends with how mechanisms will be able to be put in place, especially when it comes to security aspect along the road, issues to do with the overspeeding, monitoring such kind of things, also monitoring many other aspects that should be able to work out in terms of safety on the roads. So if we can find a way, and on the private sector side, the government should also be able to come out to say, look, as a mandatory aspect, each and every transporter should have 2 drivers, so that we have a leverage to say, if one is tired, the other one can take it up. And again, mastering some of these aspects in terms of healthy issues to see if that driver is drunk or whatever it is. So this small aspect can also be put in place to safeguard the whole entire transport business sector, so that we can actually be able to see that this lands as a serious pipeline for business. Because you see, the mobility aspect in the business is quite an important, because I need to move my goods and maybe people also from one point to another. From nearness to remoteness. So if we do not use transport to the maximum exposure, it becomes a difficult situation. You cannot run business without that. Transport is a key complementer. Even when you look at the overall situation in terms of business, transport stands right in the heart of business. So if we do not regulate properly around transport matters, then the 24 hours will be seriously diluted. Yes.
Right. Now, is this workable, Mr. Sanga? Looking at let's bring in the aspect of load shedding. Right now, we know that households and businesses have got electricity and power supply 24 hours. But we don't know how long this is going to take. We've had announcements that maybe this might go up to August, and we don't know what happens beyond August. How is a 24-hour economy workable when we have major challenges like load shedding, which was one of the major challenges that even small businesses faced in the last 4 to maybe 8 years, especially the last 4 years, which was very crucial for businesses to operate?
Okay, so I'm sure you must have clearly gotten my point in terms of trying to see opportunities turning into challenges into opportunities. The same case with the electricity. When we see that this is a challenge that has been seriously there, I'm sure there is an opportunity that we can see on it, meaning we can turn this challenge of load shedding into opportunity, meaning they can be players that will be able to interplay into this market and make some seriously, profit margins. Even just when we look at the Zambian case as we speak, right now we're talking of electricity to be an important aspect which has even sustained what we are seeing just right from January up to today. The growth profile of this first quarter is in positive. And even when we look at the key fundamentals like the inflation, exchange market, fuel component, except the issue to do with the Middle East aspect of activities, that is where we're going to see the stabilization of petrochemical products. But the bottom line here is that we are standing on a very good positive platform in terms of the key variables that have actually been able to record there. But again, there is a need for us to look at how best can we basically tap into the lying potential of electricity and much more. Yes, we may think of it to say there's a serious intervention, an invisible hand providing this sustainable supply, but it's important also that this sustainable supply that we're able to see will be able to change the narrative as it is. So power, energy, whatever you can call it, it becomes an important aspiration for business to actually explore from there. So meaning there will be investors that will be able to actually put in deep in their pocket, see how best they can interplay into the deficit which is happening right now, or which is standing as a risk factor, to see how best this can become as a business venture which will be able to stand a good test of time. The scale of business requires that we actually work into fulfillment of challenges. If we see these challenges standing strongly, that should be able to be turned into opportunity. Just like the way we see things, I'm sure it also works with a lot more others. When you see an opportunity, that's where you should be able to strike the hardest there. And that will be able to help you change the narrative. So right now, as we speak, the electricity issue is something that is standing as a potential opportunity that need to be explored. And even when you look at the economic expansion, I think for me it gives an opportunity for one to say, let me see how best I can invest my few ways in this opportunity that is standing there. Like talk of CC, talk of green belt energy, many others, renewable energies, also another source that one can actually be able to work out. That's one reason why even the model of policy structure under ERB is much easier for one to actually interplay from there, meaning you are able now to navigate through the complexity of policy structure to ensure that we can also become more viable in this business. So for me, even when they say 24-hour economy, I think the people that are in the sector, they are happy about it because they will be able to maximize their full potential, their capital injection, productive investment. They will be able to make sure that this comes to be something that can actually be able to cushion the impact that we should be able to see. So Zambia generally has an opportunity that we don't see every time. But if you see how people are flocking into this country, I think it even tells you to say, even when we are dissecting a bit on agriculture, we have not been able to utilize the land mass to the fullest capacity. We have not utilized, even when you look at the governance system, I think for me, the framework is quite good. We may speak of a certain good element that the government is doing, but I will tell you, there can also be other things that we can see which are not working out in that way. But what I'm trying to say overall is that when government is making this conducive environment, it's important that we need to see opportunities where it actually is supposed to take us somewhere. If you look at maybe just the whole scenario of power deficit, and even when now going down to fuel, these are opportunities that are standing, which in any case, I will give a typical example of fuel. The stocking part of fuel in Zambia does not go beyond 60 days. So you as an investor, or you as a Robisa, even when you don't have money, you can go out there and look for a partner and say, you've got money, I'm a Zambian. Let's invest in storage for Zambia. When somebody is storing fuel in that tank, they are giving you storage fees. At the end of it all, you are a resident director. You start benefiting from there. So a lot of opportunities that this country actually has. Sometimes we limit ourselves. You know, we have this thought to say, unless it's government involved, but when you say opportunity lacking there, you know, you have to go there and fulfill that opportunity and see how best you can push yourself to some levels of comfortability, meaning you can stabilize your life even by way of thinking to say, I think that opportunity is just waiting for me. Then you fill up that gap and you see that opportunity. What I mean by opportunity for me, it's a challenge. When you say challenge, it's an opportunity. And that's the same thing with this situation. When power is seeming to be a challenge, to some of us can be an opportunity. So turn every challenge into opportunity, then you'll see the bigger picture of how you can develop in this country. All
right. Mr. Tonga, thank you so much for coming through to the Business Day this morning. It's been a pleasure and always a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much. I've talked too much today.
No, you always actually give us all the information that we need. And it is always a pleasure having you on our platform.
Thank you so much.
All right, our dear viewer, you're still watching the Business Day on Millennium Television. Joining me on Business 360 was Mr. Kelvin Chisanga, an economist. And we were looking at, is Zambia's 24-hour economy workable? That is what we were discussing. We do take a short break. When we come back, we have Business on Set. To stay tuned. Right, you're still watching the Business Day on Millennium TV. For those that are just tuning in, you're welcome to the Business Day. Do join us on our Facebook page. It is Millennium TV Zambia. And on our Facebook page, I beg your pardon, the new top set decoders, we are on channel 95. Earlier on, I was featuring economist Calvin Chisangas. We were looking at is the 24-hour economy workable for Zambia? That was our topic of discussion. And moving on, we have business on set. Let us quickly take a look at stories that are making headlines in the business world. KCM regains its London Metal Exchange status. And government calls for more awareness of the tourism sector. And economist echoes the importance of transparency and compliance in the mining sector. Those are some of the stories that are making headlines in the business world. Let's get into our details. This morning, Konkola Copper Mines KCM has regained its London Metal Exchange LME copper grade A brand status, restoring its full standing on the international metals market. The reinstatement follows a rigorous independent audit conducted under the Responsible Minerals Assurance process by Responsible Minerals Initiative. The audit confirmed KCM's compliance with globally recognized standards for responsible sourcing due to due diligence and supply chain transparency. The development marks a significant milestone in the company's operational recovery and ongoing governance reform. Ethically produced copper cathodes. The reinstatement comes at a time when the mining firm is ramping up production and advancing modernization efforts across its operations. Mr. Melwit says the recognition reinforces its position as a key player in Zambia's mining sector and highlights its contribution to the global shift towards sustainable resource development. The company has since expressed gratitude to the London Metal Exchange, the Responsible Minerals Initiative, and other stakeholders for their support throughout the audit and reinstatement process. And government has called for increased public awareness of the tourism sector's role in national development. Speaking during the Zambia Travel Expo ZATEX launch in Lusaka yesterday, Minister of Tourism Rodney Sikumba says that while the ministry consistently shares positive statistics on international arrivals and overall sector performance, many Zambians do not fully appreciate the direct and indirect benefits of tourism. The minister says it is prudent that the people know the impact of the sector to the country's economy. Meanwhile, Tourism Council of Zambia chairperson Widen Mungaila says the expo comes at a time when the sector continues to evolve with increased participation from domestic and regional tourists. And speaking at the same event, South African Airways country manager Mildred Chalikulima says Zambia remains an attractive destination due to its peace and stability.
The Zambia Travel Expo has been officially launched in Lusaka ahead of the main event scheduled from 4th to 6th June 2026 at the Mulungushi International Conference Center. The expo is expected to play a key role in driving tourism growth, attracting investment, and positioning Zambia as a competitive destination. Gracing the event, Minister of Tourism Rodney Sikumba says there is need to improve public understanding of tourism's contribution, noting that many Zambians do not fully appreciate its direct and indirect benefits. He adds that government aims to grow the sector into a $1 billion economy through stronger collaboration and increased awareness.
Under the 8th National Development Plan, we have made deliberate decisions to prioritize tourism as a key driver of economic diversification, job creation, inclusive growth. This is because tourism has the power to create opportunities across every sector of our country and at every level of society. And I'll just harp on a bit on that point. So the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Anandi Chilema, and government, us within government, are fully committed to the growing tourism, into a major contributor to GDP, foreign exchange earnings, and national development.
Tourism Council of Zambia chairperson Widen Mungaila says the sector is evolving with increased domestic and regional participation following the COVID-19 pandemic. She notes that arrivals have exceeded 2.2 million with over 10,000 jobs created between 2023 and 2025.
We view ZATEX as a strategic platform, one that enables our members and the wider industry to showcase their offerings to the market, international and local. Before 2020, our primary focus was the international traveler. However, as you will recall, it was the domestic market that sustained us during our most challenging period. We are pleased that the industry has continued to nurture and prioritize domestic and regional tourism even after global markets rebounded.
South African Airways country manager Mildred Charlie Kulima says Zambia's peace and stability make it an attractive destination, adding that the airline remains committed to supporting tourism growth through improved connectivity.
South African Airways creates a business bridge between Zambia and the rest of the world for both the movement of passengers and cargo. I therefore wish this morning to encourage all stakeholders, all well-wishers to join us in making this year's 2026 ZATEX a success. We need to join hands together. We are partners. We have to collaborate and ensure that Zambia is put on the map in the world to see that we've got a lot more to showcase as we promote Zambia as a tourism destination.
ZATEX is expected to unlock new opportunities for partnerships, investments and market expansion, reinforcing tourism's role as a key driver of Zambia's economic transformation. Cleopatra Nankonde, reporting for Millennium TV News in Lusaka.
Ms. Nicholas Mainza has emphasized the importance of transparency and compliance in Zambia's mining sector. Speaking in an interview with Millennium TV, Mr. Mainza says the government's new statutory instrument, SI number 68 of 2025, requires mining companies, including artisanal miners, to report production, exports and local processing volumes. He explains that the measure the measure ensures taxes are paid accurately on time while promoting accountability across the sector. Mr. Mainza says authorities must verify mining volumes on the ground to ensure that figures match actual production. He adds that the directive helps the government generate more revenue, which can be channeled into infrastructure projects, social programs and other national development priorities.
To try and have very, very important and many more reforms in the mining sector. Look at what has happened at the central bank or rather in the economic space. The central banks brought about a lot of economic reforms to try and help us in terms of fiscal discipline, to try and help us as a nation to achieve our target band on the inflation, to try and bring about stability in terms of our currency, to make our currency appreciate further, to give our currency proper buying power against other major currencies. And by today, where we are as a nation is at a point where we can say we have at least achieved all the what we intended to achieve with regards to the economic reforms. Now, some of the economic sectors like agriculture and the mining sector, the tourism and manufacturing sector are very key to implement these economic reforms. Now here, we want to drill down to the SI, the statutory instrument, number 68 of 2025, which has been issued by the Ministry of Mines and Mineral Development. It comes at the right time, like we said, that I think there's been complaints for we need the aspects to do with the mining to be very clear. The artisanal miners, they must know their core mandate. We need proper regulated tax collection, tax payments. The huge miners, investors, they also need to be guided. We need the correct tax revenue payments at the right time, in the right quantity, without waiving or rather dodging the tax payments. This is the only way that we are going to increase or rather adhere to what we may call domestic revenue generation, which goes towards budget support as well as just to help government to cover issues to do with the payments of utilities, liabilities, and venture into capital investment in terms of infrastructure, social protection, which are actually very key to development agenda of the country.
An economist, Kelvin Sanga, says Africa's central banks are navigating a delicate balance between supporting economic recovery and containing emerging inflation pressures. Mr. Sanga noted that at the start of the year, several economies began with relatively high policy rates, including Ghana at 15.5%, Zambia at 13.5%, Kenya at 12.5%, and Nigeria at 26.5%. He says that many of these economies have since started easing as inflation moderated and growth required support, signaling a clear shift from the tight monetary stance of 2022 to 2024. The economist explained that rising global oil prices and geopolitical tensions in the Middle East are slowing momentum and reintroducing inflation risks. He observed that some central banks are maintaining stability, with South Africa's rate at 6.75% and Morocco at 2.25%, while others remain cautious, such as Botswana at 2.4%, Uganda at 9.5%, Malawi at 24%, and Zimbabwe prioritizing currency stabilization. And that story brings us to the end of Business Sunset on the Business Day this morning. And of course, that is where we also come to the end of the Business Day on Millennium Television. To everyone that was tuned in, thank you so much for being part of today's conversation on the Business Day. And my name is Lovisa Chilifia. I have been your host. I'll be back on your screens tomorrow, same time at 10 hours. Do not forget to tune in and, of course, inform your neighbors that we are live on Millennium Television. Until tomorrow, just stay tuned to Millennium TV. Pleasant viewing and God bless.